Hello and welcome back to Star Citizen. My name is Evenlease, and today on 10 Minutes More or Less Ship Review, right behind me, the TUMBRIL Storm. Let's go ahead and take a look. Alright, welcome back to another review. Today, another ground vehicle, and I just have to say a big thank you to IceCooL for being a Tier 4 Patreon member and choosing this vehicle for this review, as well as the race that's going to happen with this tank here. It's going to happen, and we'll see the video for that either later today or sometime tomorrow. Now, the Storm is a $90 vehicle if you were to buy it on the Pledge Store, but you can easily acquire it in-game for $453,600 aUEC. My recommendation is that's probably the price point you want to go with instead of buying it on the Pledge Store, but if you do want to own a ship or a ground vehicle like this with it in your hangar, then it's not a terrible option, I guess. Now, it does have a 5-minute and 19-second claim time, and it's also a 1-minute and 19-second expedited claim time if you were to go ahead and do that. This tank surprisingly has 2,042 burst damage per second due to the one size 3 Rain 3 laser repeater on the top. Now, as you can tell, that laser repeater does have a visual glitch. When it's firing, only one barrel seems to go back, but that's just a visual glitch and doesn't affect its actual damage output. It also has one size 0 shield, outputting 545 bubble shield. Now, past that, this vehicle does surprisingly have 89,000 HP. That's quite the health pool amount. Now, not a lot of people choose this over the Storm AA because the Storm AA is ridiculously powerful, allowing you to engage multiple air targets for quite a long time. But this one here is meant for a ground assault, going after very light ground targets or just infantry with that gun. But I'm going to be honest with you, this laser repeater can do damage not only to infantry and light ground vehicles, but to also ships if you're able to hit them due to that amazing damage output. Now, she is quite speedy and is meant to kind of blitz the enemy with that speed, so you could take that to using it for its advantage, right? You can go out there to a battlefield like Hathor and really cover some ground pretty quickly, but you, of course, have to worry about that ground destroying you and throwing you around, especially out here in Daymar, where it can be quite rocky. Now, surprisingly, again, it does have 96 flares and 10 decoys, more than most airborne ships in the game at this point. Again, more than most. It also has 5 SU of hydrogen fuel. Now, obviously, there's no quantum drive on this thing because it ain't going to just zippity-zap its way to another planet, but that would be quite interesting. Let's go ahead and take a look at this in the first person so I can show you all the access points. This vehicle came out quite a while ago, and yet it has its gold standard components pass, compared to some new ships nowadays that don't have any of that, which is quite surprising. First, we're going to start on the port side of the vehicle here. So the left side of the vehicle, you go ahead and open this right here, and you can see this is a brilliantly placed weapons rack, which hopefully doesn't get destroyed when immediately taking a round from another ground vehicle on the ground. But that's a pretty decent, I guess, plate of armor protecting it. And now we'll move to the side over here, where if you open this up, it's a nice little fuel port, giving this thing as much fuel as you possibly can. And moving to the back here, pretty much every piece of armor on this opens up to give you something, including your components on this side. Now if we move to the very rear of the ship, which also seems to have a collision issue, so not from the actual back, but if you were to jump on it, you typically fall right through. something I hope they try to fix sooner rather than later. But looking at the back here is where you do have more component access. Quite a few components, honestly. It's pretty nice that this thing has its access to its components compared to many other vehicles out there. Now you also have more on the other side, on the starboard side of the vehicle, and you continue to move along the line here, and you'll see all these little blue buttons allowing you to open it up and take a look. Now there's also a nice little visual glitch there. It says main logo. That does not appear on the new referral reward paint, but it does appear on every other paint out there for this vehicle. It's quite an interesting looking blue square. Hopefully they'll also fix that visual glitch sooner rather than later. Now when you're looking at the pilot seat, this is where you would enter the vehicle. But before you do, if you hit F and hold it, you can go ahead and deploy a weapons rack. The pilot actually does have a weapons rack right here next to where they'd be sitting, which is quite interesting. And then over here to the left, you do have your storage access. You can open that up and have 450,000 micro SCU of storage, which is a really good amount if you're, again, asking me. Now, I'm going to go ahead and get into the driver's seat of this vehicle and show you how it looks from the interior. The animation is quite long, but once you get zapped back into the pilot seat, it's a pretty cool looking animation, a pretty cool looking tank. Feels very, I'm looking out of a helmet and I should belong in the RoboCop series or something. But you power this thing on, you turn on the engines, and you have, all the power distribution you need to go ahead and get the guns all the way up. Your life support generator, once that comes into play, everything you need is here and ready to go. On the right, you have your exit button, your power off button. On the left, you have your remote turret, deploy turret, open canopy, deploy the weapon rack, and open the exterior. Outside of that, there's nothing else that you can interact with on this interior, but we'll go ahead and deploy this turret and enter it. So now we'll start driving around. Yes, you can drive while you are in the remote turret area. Will this be quite disorienting? Yeah, probably. And you're really not going to get any shots off when you're moving around because there's really no gun stabilization in the year 2955. But it is pretty nice either way. And when you start shooting, again, only one barrel moves. But I gotta say, overall, for this ground vehicle here, if you were to have a ground fight and not worrying about the air so much, this would do quite a bit of damage. And it's very fast and it's very kind of low to the ground. So what that allows you to do is avoid incoming fire from something like a Nova Tonk or tank, as many would call it before, when it was originally the Tonk, just for some fun, right? But you could avoid a lot of that incoming fire just with how fast you move. But again, it all depends on the skill of each tanker out there in a battlefield, or that new RPG that's being added to the game in 4.4, which is just around the corner. Now, I'm going to go ahead and show you just a few clips of what this thing does to certain aerial vehicles, as well as a person and one ground vehicle. We'll go ahead and take a look. Surprisingly, I've come to really enjoy the TUMBRIL Storm base just because it's fast, nimble, and I love the gun on top of it. But do I like it as much as the AA variant? Of course not. Who doesn't like a good missile when it actually locks on and hits the target, right? But this is nothing to just bat an eye at because it can destroy a target in a matter of mere seconds, from the ground vehicle being done in just a few moments, from the Gladius being destroyed in just a few shots, and a personnel being hit once and being completely incapped, and one more time with the full kill. This is a great ground vehicle, and I honestly, as I've been reviewing ground vehicles, I've really been giving them scores. I've been giving them thumbs up, thumbs downs. I think this one's a total thumbs up, total double thumbs up. It's a great ground vehicle. The outside of the game price is a bit ridiculous. The inside of the game price is definitely manageable and worth its cost over what it can do. But it's a single seater. It has a great gun. It has good mobility. It can climb quite the hill. Has good amount of flares. amazing health pool, an okay shield for a ground vehicle. I mean, you really don't lose out on this depending on what you're using it for. And yes, it can be carried by a multitude of vehicles, from the Carrack, the Corsair, the Idris, the Polaris. There's a multitude of vehicles out there, including the Hercules and even the Asgard, that can carry this vehicle. And I think that's awesome as well, because you can go to Hathor and have a lot more protection out there, or any other ground sites out there in the future that have missions allowing these vehicles to take a massive part. Thank you all for being here. Thank you to my Patreon supporters, YouTube supporters, Twitch supporters. You guys are all truly amazing. And of course, I hope you guys enjoyed. You all are truly amazing. And I'll see you all in the next one. If you're building a new PC, go through longshipindustries.com, a veteran-owned mom-and-pop business that takes pride in every single build. He built my personal rig, which you can actually see featured on the website. The care, warranty, and customer support are top tier. Trust Longship Industries for your next build.